Australia, a land of monumental proportions and an environment of extremes. But hidden within it are some of the most diverse homes you'll ever see.
As your experts, we'll spend the next 10 weeks scouring the nation on the hunt for Australia's best home. We've over 50 years of experience between us, specialising in architecture and design.
Hi. Welcome. Hi.
As an architect, the thing I'm going to be looking for is originality and uniqueness. This is truly unbelievable. I don't really know where to look first.
As an interior designer, I want to see inspiration, not from a magazine, not from the internet, but just them, their travels, their experiences. Hang on. Hello. Wow. I'm speechless.
I love being an interior designer. I think a really successful interior is a space that creates an emotion in a person. This is sensational. Wow, what a spot.
I know.
Each week, we'll visit 3 of the country's most spectacular homes, putting them through their paces and becoming live-in house guests for the night.
Cheers, Tim.
Cheers.
So tonight, it's bath time.
I'm looking forward to a very good night's sleep indeed.
But it's back at HQ, where the homes will really be put to the test.
I think it did look like a government building.
I can't agree with that. I mean, this was an incredibly well-considered house. You're a hard customer.
I think we're all kind of looking for the same sorts of things. Somewhere out there in Australia, there's going to be that home.
But it doesn't matter what we think. At the end of the day, it's up to you, the viewer, to decide who will win $30,000 for charity and get to say,
I think this house
Could be Australia's best home. I know this is Australia's best home.
this week, we check out 3 stunning passion projects.
Wow, feels like you're in a treehouse, you know.
This is like something out of a movie, really, isn't it? Tim checks out a Queenslander that's a little on the wild side.
Oh, no. Did you know what carpet you were getting in the office? Or did you just come home and you had left on the floor?
Nick falls for a stylish and ultra-cool weekender.
I mean, this place is the dream.
Cheers.
And I get a taste for the Victorian way of life. But I do feel like I'm in Downton Abbey.
That's good.
It's going to be really hard to beat the 3 houses we saw last time. And I think I had a real solid contender in Prue and Damien's concrete house.
But you know, Simon and Debbie's Ballarat Family Resort was pretty sensational.
John and Deb's chic shed in research was something else. I have never been to a home like that.
So, who's going to make it to the grand final? Well, the votes have been counted. And the winner is Cool Concrete.
No.
Prue and Damien are going to be over the moon. As an interior designer, my favourite type of house doesn't have a particular type of style, but it reflects the idiosyncrasies of its owners. You know, what I find really interesting is how experimental a stage we're at in architecture and in interiors at the moment. Don't you think people are getting so much bolder and braver with what they do? We're seeing things we've never seen before.
Absolutely. I can tell you from the architect's point of view, we are seeing clients who want to push the boundaries more. They're just letting us go places that we couldn't go before, which is fantastic. We're seeing it in interiors too, of course.
Well, the house I'm about to show you is very bold.
Really?
Really.
Really?
Really, really. I'm heading to Brisbane to check out a home with some very adventurous interiors. The lush hills and valleys of the upscale Brisbane suburb of Paddington are dotted with classic Queenslanders. And I'm visiting a home that has been given a very colourful makeover. When it comes to doing up old houses, the temptation is to be faithful to the period and make it a classic. But the couple I'm about to meet, they've rewritten all the rule books. This loud and proud Queenslander is big on fun and even bigger on colour. Retaining the core structure of this pre-war boarding house as the foundation for an extensive rebuild was a brave undertaking for interior decorator Sophia and her accountant husband Ben. Their vision to create a fun-loving home for their young family required some gutsy decisions, and they couldn't be happier with the result.
Yes, I did have a lot of fun putting this house together. It was, a big project. It was at times a little bit daunting, but I loved it.
There were times when you're looking at a piece of paper with a piece of material stuck on it that you shake your head and say, well, what are we doing? But, I learnt to trust the interior decorator.
I could see it all before they'd started building. They knew exactly what it all would look like. It's really welcoming and still has a great sense of fun. That's what I wanted to create for us. I do think, as a really talented architect and skillful builder, that we've created the best home in Australia for our family.
Transferring their vision from paper to reality involved taking some brave decorating risks, and I really can't wait to see how it's paid off. Hello.
Hello, Tim.
Sophia, hi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. What a beautiful little piece of paradise.
Oh, thanks. We really love it. Please, come in and see the rest of the house.
Thanks. This all-white exterior creates a very conservative impression.
This way?
Wow. Oh, so it's quite a period-style house.
Yes.
This part?
Yeah.
But inside, Sophia has used her own home to experiment and express her vibrant decorating style. Wow, what an amazing room. I can really sense that you guys have poured your heart and soul into this house, you know? Everywhere you look, you can see that it's been considered. This room feels very British colonial, doesn't it? Like, it's got really lovely vaulted ceilings, everything.
Yeah, high ceilings,
Yeah.
tropical fans, rattan.
And the tiles. It's one of the first things I noticed when I walk in here. They're pretty wild. Were you expecting them to be that vibrant when they went down?
Yes, I think so. They do create a bit of an optical illusion without any furniture on it.
Yeah.
Did make us a little dizzy.
Right.
Or
including the Tyler.
Yeah, how did the Tyler go?
Not well.
Did they ever
started.
work for you again, the Tylers? Probably not. No. That was it. There's a big tropical influence here, I've noticed, but there's a really lovely mix because there's also a very African influence with all the prints, the leopard prints, and there's even some on the sofa behind us. What was the reasoning behind that big African influence?
Yeah, well, Africa's Soph's favourite spot in the world.
Is that right?
Yeah, Zambia and Zimbabwe,
Well, it feels like you're in a treehouse, you know.
which is what we actually had on the initial brief, was to create that sense of being up a tree
yeah.
with paddles.
A tree with paddles. Up in the clouds, though. It's lovely. The 15-month rebuild of this Queensland-style home resulted in the original floor plan being completely reconfigured. So the entry level comprises of a guest room, powder room and study, opening onto a formal sitting room. In the centre, there's the kitchen and breakfast room with the original wide veranda being enclosed to create that gorgeous informal living room. Downstairs is a playroom, kids' bedroom and master with ensuite and walk-in robe. This lower level has been designed to connect easily with the rear garden, swimming pool and pool house. But it's the interiors that are the loudest expression of Sophia's colourful eclecticism. So when I first saw this, I wasn't sure about it. Tell me about the leopard.
What's not to love about a leopard? Well, I've always admired them as a cat.
As a cat?
As a cat, as an attractive cat.
Well, I know that's your sort of signature, isn't it? This leopard print, this animal print. But the yellows and the browns and even the blacks and the way they tie to the range hood, it actually really works.
Well, I wanted a honey-coloured kitchen.
And that's the
white.
timber?
Yeah,
Yep,
so
yep.
warm and with the background of the honey-coloured timber.
That's,
It needs
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit of oomph.
I think you have done a great job in here. The leopard print is growing on me. The more time I spend with you, the more I understand that that's part of what you wanted to incorporate. And it really is one of my favourite rooms in the house. Committing to bold decorating statements takes real courage, especially with big-ticket fixtures like tiles that can't be easily changed. But Sophia has let her imagination run wild, and Ben has backed her all the way. What a great home office, hey? It's tying into the house, but it kind of pulls back with its colour, and it's quite calm, unless you look at the ground. You go, oh, no. I have to know, did you know what carpet you were getting in the office before it was laid, or did you just come home and you had a leopard on the floor?
I was told it was leopard print, but
Right.
yeah, I came home and they'd rolled it out.
What were you thinking when it happened?
Well, it actually didn't look too bad.
Right.
Remember, it was the one choice where you said, I'm a little bit nervous about. And I was thinking, ooh, the purple tiles in the bathroom. Ooh, the hot pink walk-in robe. No, it was this carpet. And I said, don't worry, that is the least of your problems.
Yeah, that's right. And just when I thought this house couldn't get any more out there, have a look at this. My colourful journey takes me to unexpected places. Purple. And later, Nick uncovers an ingenious view.
It's got a sense of relief to it, doesn't it? That you've taken the lid off.
I'm in the Brisbane suburb of Paddington, where a classic Queenslander is proving that tropical prints and leopard spots can happily coexist. And it's these witty touches that bring a sense of humour to this home. With collected keepsakes from their travels in Africa, Asia and the Middle East, mixed in with family treasures, Sophia's design style combines colonial clubroom with tropical modern. But it's her sense of adventure that really impresses me. This house is all about colour. And I love what Sophia's done here. She's taken one of the hardest colours to use in the spectrum and used it in one of the hardest areas, the ensuite and the master bedroom. Have a look at this. Purple. Beautiful, pearlescent purple tiles, little squares like what she's done upstairs, absolutely spot on. And then in here, more purple. Purple on the bed, purple on the walls, lampshades, even the side chair. But she's made it work, and the way she's done it is using tiny bits of other colours, greens, blues, even timber. And you'll see that the purple bounces off the green outside really dramatically and really beautifully. Sensational. Sophia has applied a very sophisticated and adult sense of humour to the interiors of this house. But creating a relaxed and fun home for the kids and their friends was clearly central to the plan, with a colourful pool and play area and bedrooms that are both functional and imaginative. You know, as an interior designer, one of the hardest things is to make a room timeless, especially a kid's room. But what Sophia's done here with her 11-year-old is really, really smart. Bright, colourful wallpaper, but it's of graffiti. Orange carpet, bit of orange here, bit of yellow here, even a yellow ceiling. When he hits 15 or 16 and he wants blues or greys or blacks as he grows up, the wallpaper will hold it, because those colours are in there. All she has to do is new bedspreads, a new lamp and a couple of new things, and the room will grow with her son. Good, smart, solid interior design. And Sophia hasn't been afraid to look abroad for inspiration. A lot of her use of texture and colour in details like wallpaper, tiles and soft furnishings have been imported, and it's given this house a multi-layered personality. The more time I spend here, the more I get her inspiration, and tonight I reckon I'll be dreaming in colour. I have just had a great night's sleep. After spending a day with Sophia and her family, I'm really starting to get this house, and this is a great example. Big tropical wallpaper behind me with little flashes of pink, a bit like Sophia in the house. She's got this great love of colour and that she's really playful with it, and she's not afraid to have a bit of fun, and that's why I think this house really works. Sophia's adventurous approach to decorating has really confirmed for me that having a bit of fun with colour and design is a great way to create a family home. Good morning.
Oh, morning, Tim.
Morning, Tim.
Can I say thank you so much for letting me spend time in your beautiful house. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learnt a lot about you guys and sort of a lot about the house as well, so thank you so much.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Safe travels home.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tim. Lovely to meet you.
Take care. Time for this leopard to leave the jungle. It takes a lot of confidence to pull off a distinctive interior, but these guys have got it in spades. The family story is woven into every room in this home. It's colourful and it's got a wicked sense of humour, which I find really infectious. It's a fun and happy home for this family to grow up in, and for that reason alone, it deserves to be voted Australia's best home. So come on, how brave to use those colours, those wallpapers, those tiles. I've never seen in Australia. Very courageous.
I thought the interiors and the colours, she's definitely gone out on a limb there. You know, she loved the green in that big room. She's gone for it. She loved the purple in the bedroom. She's gone for it as well. I do think, though, when you go for a particular theme, you have to follow it throughout the house. And I did feel there were quite a few themes happening at the same time.
I think the leopard print really tied the house together. It was almost in every room. It was in the office, on the floor. It was in that beautiful green room that you're talking about.
Sofas, yeah.
It was even in the kitchen, and that was the reoccurring theme.
In isolation, so many of the things in that interior I love. There are pieces of wallpaper, pieces of carpet, individual pieces of furniture that I absolutely love. For me personally, there might just be a little bit too much eclecticism going on.
I think the thing is, if you're going to use colour as your main tool, there's a certain way of using it. Like, you can only use colours that are just soft or really high octane, and she's used the whole realm. And I would have sort of tightened that up a bit.
That's the bravery in it.
Do you think that she's pushed things because she is an interior designer and she's working on her own house?
That's exactly right, and so she should. I mean, that's the beauty of experimenting.
I know that I've done that with my own home. You know, I've done things for myself that I've never done for a client, running it as an experiment. We'll see how it goes.
I painted my tiny Federation hallway almost jet black about 4 years ago because I was experimenting. It's the worst thing I've ever done.
And how'd that work out for you?
Very well. But the thing is, it was a great learning curve.
Well, I think what you've really got to admire her for is taking big risks with things that you can't change easily, like the splashback. I mean, that's ballsy.
Thank you, Gillian.
But it's not up to us, is it? It's up to Australia.
What Sophia's done looks simple. It's actually quite complicated. You wouldn't have noticed it, but all those lamps were hardwired into the wall. Instead of switching a switch and the lights turn on from the ceiling, the table lamps would turn on, or the bedside lamps would turn on. That was really, really smart. Secondly, be experimental. Bold colours, wild wallpaper, leopard print. You only live once. You know, give it a shot. And thirdly, furniture. Collect things, keep things. They had side tables from Africa, chairs from eBay, rugs from Morocco, and that was the layering that really worked.
You're making me want to go home and rethink my splashback.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping.
Well, guys, I think that was a really interesting house, there's no question, but the next house we're going to go to also goes along that theme of experimentation, just in a completely different way. So you ready to take a look?
Can't wait.
Great.
Ching, ka-ching.
Whale Beach is one of Sydney's most coveted coastal enclaves. And this exclusive pocket of the northern beaches is home to some of the peninsula's most spectacular houses. Today, I'm in for a treat. As I'm off to visit a house I've been looking forward to seeing ever since I started my quest to find Australia's best home. It may only be a beach weekender for the homeowners, but architecturally, it packs more than just a punch and is definitely not what you'd expect from your average beach house. Tucked on a long, narrow block at the southern end of the beach, this multi-level home is the weekend retreat for corporate lawyers and long-time partners, David and Robert, and their 3 golden retrievers. With their busy work lives holding them in the city midweek, their vision was to create a serene weekender where they could leave the daily grind behind.
Being a busy professional, things can get quite hectic, and so coming up here and basically chilling out, it's just a dream come true. In terms of the finished product, I think the house certainly lived up to the initial brief that we gave to our architect in terms of it being the best beach house in the northern beaches. The whole project was very challenging because it is a big build. It did take up a lot of time. I mean, if you actually add the planning stage together with the construction phase, we're talking about 5 or 6 years. Will I ever do it again? No. I think it's fair to say that it actually surpassed anything that we were ever hoping for.
With David often away on work trips, Robert fills the house with friends most weekends. And today, I'm lucky enough to be on the guest list.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
Very good.
Welcome. Good to see you. How are you?
Very, very good. Good to see you too. It was an amazing entrance. It was like coming through an enchanted forest.
We call it the bush journey.
Oh, I loved it.
Look, come on in, I'll show you the rest of the
Hey,
house.
thanks so much.
Come on through. This is the dining room area, and this area here is the lounge room.
Wow. Not sure what to look at more. The beautiful architecture or the amazing view. It's extraordinary.
What we sought to do is not have any columns or any obstructions to the view, so you can actually be in the kitchen looking straight through to the great view.
Yeah. When you and David first bought the site, what was the vision for the home?
The thinking was a timber box that was washed up on the beach.
Yeah, nice.
So you've got that lovely dark timber here, you've got the Canadian maple rock timber flooring here. So, and it was a labour of love that took us 3 years to do. I mean, we basically detailed everything down to the nth degree, such that when we actually came to building it, there were no variations.
Well, being 2 high-powered lawyers, that doesn't surprise me at all.
That's the thing, though. I mean, we always
I mean that in a sharing, caring way.
That's right.
Robert, tell me about this fireplace. It's unusual to me for a number of reasons. First of all, it looks unusual and beautiful. The other thing is it seems to be hanging off the side of the building.
It is hanging off the side of the building. We wanted to have a feature fireplace, didn't want to obstruct the views. We were quite fortunate in that we had the wonderful space in the void, and so there's the fireplace.
Oh, how fabulous. It's a beautiful feature. The other thing I love is the way you've made a decision to cut the slab out outside to create a void to the sky. Because if that was still there, you know, this would feel like a compressed space.
What we didn't want to have was what I call the apartment balcony syndrome, yes, where basically you feel a bit enclosed, yes, whereas here you actually maintain the view, but at the same time allow the natural light to come through.
Yeah, it's got a sense of relief to it, doesn't it, that you've just taken the lid off. Working with renowned local architect Alex Popov, David and Robert settled on a 3-storey concrete and timber design with the upper section on street level, devoted entirely to the master bedroom, ensuite and balcony. A floating staircase leads to the second floor, which comprises a kitchen at the rear and a dining room and lounge opening onto a large balcony. The lower section, on beach level, has 3 double bedrooms and a lounge room, and a swimming pool and sun deck leading to the garden. And in the basement, a large commercially fitted wine cellar can be accessed via a lift. But it's the view from the top that really blows me away.
So, Nick, this is the master bedroom.
Well, it just gets even more spectacular up here, doesn't it?
Well, again, it's a very different outlook.
Yes.
I call them the helicopter views, but you've got absolutely fantastic views, obviously, down to the beach and through there straight down to the rest of the beach and around to the heads.
I noticed as well, you've actually got the external recycled Jarrah cladding inside the house like that, which gives it a lovely continuity.
Exactly. It's that inside-outside feel.
And so you have this total retreat up here that's in complete contrast to your life in Sydney from that level of intensity. But do you do any work up here?
Yes, surprisingly, yes. Now and again, I do actually come up here on a weekday and work from home.
Yeah, lovely. Well, if you've got to do the work, you may as well do it here than in the office. I'm not sure how much work I'd be able to get done when the beach is constantly beckoning, but the beauty of this house is that the living spaces have been cleverly delineated, so there's room for work, play, and of course, entertaining.
So, Nick, this is the ground floor.
Yeah.
The thinking behind this floor was it's the guest floor. There are 3 bedrooms down here, and everyone would just meet in the middle, upstairs.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the swimming pool because it's got beautiful proportions. I can see that it's wonderfully deep, so you get a proper freshwater immersion effect. It's a very beautiful ornamental pool, but also a highly functional pool.
Oh, yeah. Again, one of the decisions we had at the time was whether you do actually need a pool when you're so close to the beach.
Yep.
We decided that a pool is actually something that can function 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. And it is heated as well, so even in winter time we can use the pool. And the other issue is sometimes when the surf is rough and they've closed the beach, you then have the benefit of the pool.
Yeah, this space is quite amazing. You know, it really feels very casual, very breezy. The way this thing opens up on 2 sides, you know, you really do feel like you're outside when you're sitting inside. The pool is fantastic. The design, the generosity, the bench, the ladder, the overhanging tree. You know, it's a destination in its own right. And coming up, it seems I'm not the only one who's enjoying being part of the journey.
I mean, this place is the dream.
And later, Gillian embarks on her own journey back in time.
This is really Henry Higgins' My Fair Lady, isn't it?
Tonight, in our search for Australia's best home, I'm in Sydney's Whale Beach to experience a very architectural interpretation of a beach weekender. Despite the very intentional details and dimensions of this house, it's its proximity to the sand that keeps it relaxed and uncomplicated. By choosing hard-wearing materials like concrete and recycled Jarrah, the house has an almost industrial form, giving it an uncompromising and robust presence on the beachfront. They've kept the interiors functional and unobtrusive, but very much angled to the way they like to live. One of their favourite rooms has been reserved for their love of wine collecting. Every home has one room that says something about the true passion of the owners. Some people have a movie room, some a music room, some a gym, and some a library. But as you can see, these guys are deadly serious about wine. There are thousands of bottles of wine here, and it's fitted out like a commercial tasting room. It's extraordinary. It's got everything that any wine buff would dream of. I'm just hoping I've picked the right drop for dinner tonight. Entertaining is a regular event for these guys, and while sharing the contents of their cellar gives them great pleasure, it's also about sharing a lifestyle. And for Robert's friends and colleagues, this is the perfect place to end the working week. Yeah, so you can really see the restorative impact of this type of experience.
I mean, this place is the dream, you know, to have a beach place to relax at for the weekend. Cruise up here on a Friday afternoon, and I think for all of us that's really something that people aspire to, just to be able to have that lifestyle.
Yeah. Thank you for having everybody here this evening for dinner and for having me to your home. It's a very generous thing.
You're very, very welcome, Nick.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. 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 There's nothing quite like a couple of nice glasses of red and the sound of the waves breaking on the beach to guarantee a great night's sleep. The delights of this house appear to be never-ending, and Robert and David have gone to extremes to make sure that this is the ultimate place to wind down and relax. This marble-clad steam room seems to be part of that plan. Body cleansed and soul refreshed, I'm ready to take on the day. Good morning, Robert.
Hey, Nick. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good.
You managed to see the sunrise this morning?
I did. Well, you get the sunrise coming down through this void down the side of the house and hitting the concrete wall. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty spectacular sunrise. No, it's my pleasure.
After a couple of days drinking in the ocean air, I can truly understand the attraction of having a weekend escape plan. It's easy to see this is a refined and beautiful piece of architecture, but what I admire most is Robert and David's bravery in creating something that uniquely suits their lifestyle. It was a big risk taking on such a challenging project, but in return, they've got themselves something incredibly special that they generously share with others. They wanted the best home on the northern beaches, but I think they might just have Australia's best home.
The architecture was stunning, absolutely faultless on that site. Really makes the most of it. I do have a couple of questions about the interiors, though. I mean, to me, they seemed a little bit cold, clinical, stark.
I'd have to agree with that, to be honest. I thought the architecture was sensational. That void that you talked about was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, there were just a couple of questions. The stainless steel kitchen, it was so industrial and so cool. Did have a slightly commercial feel to it. Just the interiors, even the fireplace. I even questioned that to a certain extent because all the heat goes on the outside. I'm not sure how practical it is.
Look, this house is really an expression of the guys, and the guys are high-powered lawyers. They're very focused, very busy, and very disciplined.
Yeah.
You know, work is a massive, massive part of their life, and I think the house reflects that discipline in a way, and the interior does that too.
Do you know what I liked about it? The house, it's big and dramatic, but it actually, I think, sort of melts into the landscape quite well.
It was amazing. That morning, I went for a swim, sunrise, in the surf. You look back, all these houses jumping out at you. You nearly completely miss that house.
Yeah.
It's the concrete, it's the dark wooden panelling. As a piece of architecture, it was absolutely fantastic.
Tim, are you going to say something about the shower scene, or am I?
I wasn't even going to go there. I feel like every time we talk about a shower scene with Nick, it's any opportunity. I think he needs a swimming show or something instead of just running around in some Speedos. Well, Nick, I can see that it was a really special home. But you know what? It's not up to us. It's up to the viewers at home.
One of the things that was really clever was that recycled Jarrah hardwood cladding that was then painted black. And they used that not just on the outside of the house, but brought that inside the house. And that really gave you a strong connection to the outside and made the inside spaces feel very outdoors.
I did like that.
The second thing is the off-form concrete ceilings that had those beautiful slots with the Creon lights set in them. That was really, really slick. And, you know, I think concrete can be a really warm finish, much warmer than a pure white ceiling that you would have often seen in that location. And the third thing, of course, is they've made some really clever choices in terms of classic one-off pieces of furniture that they've got dotted around the house, also then supported by some lovely sofas and things that really soften the place. Plush do something called a city in smooth tan that would do just the trick.
Well, you've both been to modern houses, but I'm heading back to the good old glory days because old is the new black.
Really?
Can't wait to see it.
It's a change. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I'm travelling to Ipswich in Queensland to meet a truly grand old dame with a very interesting past. The historic town of Ipswich lies 40 minutes west of Brisbane and is home to some of Queensland's grandest old residences. And there's one in particular that's really captured my imagination.
Preserving historic houses is not for the faint-hearted, and the couple I'm about to meet today give the term passion project a whole new meaning. Their home is like a sort of living museum that captures 19th century Queensland in all its rosy glory. And I, for one, can't wait to step back in time.
Built in 1864 for a local retailing family, Goolawon is one of the country's finest existing examples of Victorian architecture. After 120 years in the one family, this historic mansion fell into disrepair during the 1980s and was boarded up until the family could find a willing buyer. Ipswich residents, retired eye surgeon Graham and his wife Genevieve, were long-time admirers of this grand home and bought the house and all its contents in 1988. They spent the next 4 years restoring its grandeur and so began a very passionate love affair.
Well, I fell in love with it when I was driving around Ipswich and I saw this lovely house and I felt it was just like something out of the South in America.
I really just describe it as a lovely place to live. Simple as that. I think we're very lucky.
I think it would have to be one of Australia's most interesting homes because the style of the house and the fact that it does retain much of its original furniture and bric-a-brac and paintings and goodness knows what.
I'm very proud of what we have done to preserve the house as it was.
It's so rare for a home to be preserved in its original state. And I have a feeling these walls hold lots of stories.
Hello, how are you,
Hi, Genevieve, how are you going?
Lovely to see you.
All right, Gillian, welcome to the house.
Thank you.
Let me take your bag,
Oh,
Gillian.
thanks. My goodness, look at this hallway. The height of the ceilings, the colours, everything looks like it's original.
And it is, pretty much.
I can't wait to hear the story of this house.
Well, come on in and I'll show you the room in here.
Okay, thank you.
Good, Gillian.
Oh, wow. This room is incredible. This is your lounge room. I can't believe it.
Yes, it's a lovely, comfortable room.
Tell me, how long have you been in this house?
We bought it in 1988, but moved in at the beginning of 91.
Okay. Did you always have your eyes on a Victorian house?
I particularly always loved this house.
Yep.
And I just thought it'd go on in the family, as it had done for 123 years.
Really?
4 generations lived here.
We had looked at it over the years and thought how lovely it would be, and then it was on the market.
On the market, and in the inspection, did it look like this?
No, it looked like it needed a facelift because it had been closed for 5 years.
You saved it, really. You actually bring real life into it. So your kids have grown up here.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
6.
Okay. What an incredible place to pass your childhood. I mean, this is like something out of a movie, really, isn't it?
It is. It is lovely.
Now, I can't help but notice the gorgeous wallpaper. I've never seen this design before. Can you tell me a bit about it?
We actually looked at the original wallpaper, and this was the closest match. I got a help from the National Trust.
So you've worked quite closely with the National Trust on this house?
I did, with one of the advisors, yes.
I'm really glad you did, because you've done a wonderful job.
Genevieve and Graham have faithfully preserved the Victorian proportions of the house. On the first floor, the original living quarters have been retained with all 11 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms running off a network of narrow corridors. The wide veranda wraps most of the way around the upper level and can be accessed by the main bedrooms. The conservatory on the ground level is the only addition Genevieve and Graham have made to the centuries-old floor plan. The grand spaces of this lower level are devoted to a formal lounge and dining room, a morning room, breakfast room, large kitchen, and the original library.
Oh, I love a good library, but this one is really good. This is really Henry Higgins' My Fair Lady, isn't it?
Yes, and there's 3,000 books. I know that because I got a librarian to catalogue them.
Okay, let's just tell me first of all, this is original.
Yes.
And are these your books?
No, these are all original to the house. This is the family's reading over 123 years.
That's incredible.
So you can really get into the head of the people who are here because you know what they were interested in and so forth.
So have you read all of these books?
Of course. Look, a lot of them are not the sort of reading now that you would want.
Right.
You know, like The Willful Maid or something like that.
Do you know what I love about these shelves is that they're made for novels. Like, there is not a coffee table book inside. Obviously, the coffee table books didn't exist.
No,
but, I mean,
that's
that's
right.
pretty rare, isn't it? You know, libraries are my favourite thing. And I was thinking to myself, why is it? And I think it's because these days books are just decoration for a lot of people. But here, as you say, there's 150 years worth of people's reading and what's been going through their brain.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful.
That's right.
I'm so pleased Genevieve and Graham have resisted the temptation to fill those shelves with paperbacks. In fact, every room has a story that offers a glimpse into 19th century life.
This is my favourite room in the house. This is what I call a real country kitchen. You know, back in the day, there would have been cooks and housemaids, and they all would have congregated here. And they would have known if someone needed them because a little bell would have rung in this box. Have a look at this iron stove. Isn't it gorgeous? And if you can see the patina, I mean, it looks like it really has been here forever. There are big flagstones underneath here, and they run throughout the house. And when I stand here, I can actually feel where they've been worn away by the cook standing here for hours. This is such an authentic room. I often get asked to do country kitchens, and it ends up being a sea of pristine fitted joinery. But this is what a country kitchen should really be. It's all a bit hodgepodge, but so much more charming.
And coming up, this old mansion just keeps turning up the charm.
Oh, wow. What is this? Let's go. Go and have a go. stepped back in time in a Victorian mansion in Ipswich, just west of Brisbane, where proud owners Genevieve and Graham enjoy the gentler pace of 19th century life.
That's you there, Rose.
And the simple pleasures of the age of innocence haven't been lost on Genevieve and Graham's children and grandkids.
Okay.
Another afternoon tea at the house.
Yeah, it's just typical afternoon tea.
Do you think that sort of genteel way of living, like the slower pace that the Victorians enjoyed, you enjoy as well? This house can't help but give you that.
Well, certainly we love it like that, and all the grandchildren love coming up here.
Yeah.
TV would be good. Is there a TV here? I haven't seen one.
Is there a TV? Do you have internet here?
Oh.
I just wanted to ask the grandkids a question, which is, what's it like for you visiting your grandparents in this gorgeous house? How much fun is it?
Well, you can guarantee good food. That is for sure. That is for sure.
Do you guys dress up?
Yes.
She does.
I do. Me and Henrietta.
What sort of things do you dress up in?
All these different old clothes.
Old clothes.
And then this big dresser box, and that's what we do.
This is a gorgeous platter. Is this quite a historical pattern?
It's
I feel like I've seen it before.
well, at Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
Yes, the BBC use it on all their productions. They use that same service.
It's absolutely
Yeah,
appropriate
I
to the
love
house,
it.
isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, I do feel like I'm in Downton Abbey.
That's good.
Every corner of this house is like a carefully curated exhibit, but there aren't any please don't touch signs here.
So, Gillian, this is something I want to show you.
Oh, wow. What is this?
This is the original lift that they put in about 1930.
You're kidding.
Yes. It was built for a granny who lived here. She was in a wheelchair, so she goes up onto the top veranda. She used to go right round and she could look over 360-degree view of Ipswich, which was wonderful.
Can I sit inside?
Yes, you hop in.
Will it be able to take my weight?
No, I think so.
Okay, let's go. Go and have a go.
There you go.
You know, I must confess, I was all scared getting in here at first, but it's actually really fun, and you can just imagine growing up here as a kid how fun this would be.
Over the past 25 years, Genevieve and Graham's family have added a new chapter to this house's story, and there's comfort in the thought that such a national treasure is in safe hands.
This is like real time travel, this house, and I feel like I've stepped into the pages of a Bronte sisters novel. Today I got a real sense for how Genevieve and Graham have used the history of this house and turned it into their family's history.
My experience here has reminded me that we don't need push-button convenience to live comfortably. Sometimes old-fashioned simplicity is enough.
Original plumbing.
And the children loved it, so it was wonderful.
Good morning.
Hello.
Gillian, you're up.
Thank you for having me, Graham.
Been a great
To
pleasure.
say this house has character barely does it justice.
Keep in touch.
Yes, good. Thank you.
It's layered with 150 years of family life, and while its past is precious, Genevieve and Graham's family is writing its future.
This house has made me reflect on the past. I guess just like a museum does, but then I was welcome to sit in its chairs, to leaf through its books, to take a sip of tea out of its crockery, and that's something that no museum can offer. Whether they realise it or not, Genevieve and Graham, by just leaving the house unchanged, are custodians of our cultural heritage. And that's why I think this could just be Australia's best home.
Gillian, can I say that house was absolutely beautiful? Imagine what it would have looked like back in 1860. This striking home on this beautiful bush landscape would have looked absolutely stunning.
Well, that's what I love about it, that you actually don't have to imagine, because it's pretty much in
Exactly
pristine
the same.
condition. And it was just these two, and it was a complete labour of love. I can't imagine how much money they've poured into that house, finding all the little pieces. I mean, they're obsessed, but not in a weird way. Like, I think they just genuinely love the Victorian era. But the interiors, I've got to tell you, they were really got me. Because what they've done is they've furnished this house exactly like Victorians did. It's total maximalist, absolutely stuffed with furniture. Now, we would never see anything like that in houses today, and that was something really unique.
Did it feel a bit precious? Like Were they worried about kids running through certain rooms or anything like that, or was it pretty...
It's funny that you say that because you walk in and you almost expect a velvet cord to be in front of you,
right.
but there isn't.
I think those interiors are incredibly forgiving. I mean, you can really hide a lot of things, you know, imperfections in the furniture and the rugs and all those types of things, but also if there's a little bit of clutter and there's a little bit of damage, you know, you really get away with it in a space where there's so many things going on.
Because there's so many layers and layers and layers.
Completely.
You know, it's interesting with houses like that too, though. You've got to be careful that they don't start to feel a little bit old and musty. I've been into some fabulous old houses, and if you really don't keep up the attention, you know, to all the decorating and really just keeping the dust off that multitude of surfaces, they can start to feel a little bit...
Almost like an antique shop, where you go into those big old rambling antique shops where there's just room after room after room of stuff and it just gets dusty, you know?
I think if the only thing you guys can come up with is dust, we can all agree this is a real contender. There's a 19th century architecture critic called John Ruskin, and he said there are two things that houses should do for us. They should, one, give us shelter, and two, it should speak to us of the things we find important and remind us of those things. And I think that Victorian view of what homes are about is truer today than it was then. And for Genevieve and Graham, those things are, I think, a genteel, kinder, simpler time.
The people and the family and that fantastic afternoon tea, you know, it's got a lot of really, really strong points at home.
So there's a couple of ways I think we can get the look really easily. The first thing is furniture. Now, there's a lot of furniture that say we inherit from Granny and we think it's really daggy. Hold onto it because I think it's got some real historic significance. Even if you've got a contemporary space, you can put in, say, an old Victorian mahogany side chair, just reupholster it in something plain, and I think that will be a beautiful talking point. The second thing you can do is paint colours. Now, the Victorians had a very particular dark, moody palette. You can really see that coming back in at the moment. Like, it's really quite similar to the sort of colours we see coming out of, say, Milan. And thirdly, textiles. I mean, some of the most beautiful patterns were done centuries ago, and a lot of the fabric houses are reproducing these from their archives. So have fun. Look for something that, say, was from the 1850s, because it can work as well in your new contemporary box as it can in Ipswich.
Guys, we have really seen some extraordinary and diverse homes today. I mean, absolutely amazing in terms of the places we've been, the people we've met. The thing that's going to be really interesting is to see which one the country love the best.
Oh, I think I know the answer to that.
I know. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Hands down. Only one of this week's 3 homes can make it through to the finale, and that decision is up to you. Will you go for my super colourful tropical Queenslander with a wild leopard print? Or will you choose Nick's Whale Beach Weekender with its helicopter views of the surf and sand? Or did Gillian's Ipswich Victorian mansion, with its beautifully preserved history, strike a romantic chord? To vote your favourite home through to the grand finale and have the chance to win one of 3 prizes worth $5,000 each to spend in store at Plush, head to lifestyle.com.au/best home.
Next time on I Own Australia's Best Home, I investigate a truly baffling building. It's unusual, but it looks fabulous. A Melbourne marvel leaves Gillian breathless.
Look at this view! Fantastic!
And while visiting this beachside family haven...
This is sensational.
Tim goes AWOL.
Now, when are you coming again?
I'm staying.